us. Let's talk about movies and TV, music, books, or whatever strikes our fancy. Let's get excited, let's get weird, let's get foolish. Let's talk about movies and TV, music, books, or whatever strikes our fancy. Let's get excited, let's get weird, let's get weird, let's get foolish. Let's get foolish. Ooh, 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 ooh.
And above all, don't forget to watch Evil Dead Chicks Top 10.
Hey gang, hey kids. You just finished your stream so you can be here. Well, normally I don't do these things this late. But I was trying to get stuff together and I figured out a new way to do my animations for these Evil Dead Chicks Top 10. Ooh, Blood Beach. That's interesting. I've seen Blood Beach, but it's been a little bit. Look cool. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a fun one. If I remember everything correctly. Hey, Davy, I haven't seen you in a minute. I'm glad to see you in here in chat. Um, I may start doing some of the things later if there seems like there's a bigger draw. I actually didn't think anybody would be in here tonight. Oh, I appreciate that, Kits. You say I told Horror Miser, one of my co-hosts, about your channel. I appreciate that. Anybody and everybody that you can tell about the channel, I really, really appreciate it. It has been a while, Davey, but I'm still glad to see you. And I know people get busy and work. People have, most people have regular 9 to 5 jobs. They can't make a living on YouTube or whatever, except in those rare instances. So, I know that you can't always be on here every time I'm on here, but it is very, very nice to see you again. Kids, you say he does a series on women in horror. He might chat at you about being on. Oh, I would love to. I would love to. If at all possible, I would love that. I actually miss being on other people's channels and stuff, but that hadn't been one of those things that I've been asked to do for a while. So that would definitely be fun. So before I get to the housekeeping stuff and before I get to what's going on tonight on Evil Dead Chicks Top 10, I do want to apologize too for not doing. They're all messed up last night, but I was feeling really rough, and so I decided it would probably be best to postpone it for another week or so. Kids, you say you're welcome to join us anytime. Well, you you just ask, and I'll check my schedule, and we'll get together on that because I'm up for almost anything. You say don't apologize, take care of yourself. Um, well, I really wanted to do it last night, and I kept planning on doing it, and I didn't get to feeling any better. So I thought, well, it'd probably be best if I rescheduled it because I'm not going to be a really good host for this show. Yeah, kids, anytime. Just hit me up as long as my schedule's free. I would be glad to do it. Um, so those of you that were here early might have noticed the Friday Foolish intro playing. Um, oh, I appreciate that, kid. She said, we will be here to tune in. No sense in wearing yourself out. Yeah, it's just I've been going through a lot lately. I mean, those of you that have been watching my last few streams, I did talk about being on leave from work. And my quest to get short-term disability to allow myself time to really, you know, heal up and get better. But you still got to have money coming in. So hence trying to get that short-term disability, at least for the 12 weeks of FMLA that I've got. So excuse me. But for those of you that don't know what Friday Foolish is, and Kits probably is not familiar with Friday Foolish. Oh, Kits. Oh, and thank you, Davey, for saying get well soon. Yeah, stuff out there, kids. I'll put I forgot all about that. I'm hoping I'm putting my brain is just so bad. Kits and everybody else. Uh, so there's my email address, Kits, and if you want to contact me that way, that's my one that I use for all my, channel stuff and things like that. I have another one that's technically, I guess, my personal email. But that one, I try to check both of them quite frequently. So, and yes, Kit, you are not in the know about Friday Foolish. But Friday Foolish was a show a while back that me and my friend Candace did. And things got crazy for both of us, as far as being crazy busy and having to get things sorted out. And so Friday Foolish kind of fell by the wayside. And what Friday Foolish was, it and still is a show that we would do primarily on Fridays, hence the name Friday Foolish. And we would talk about whatever. We wouldn't always talk about horror movies. We would talk about different types of movies. We'd talk about books. We'd talk about music, and just like the song says, whatever strikes our fancy, we would talk about it. And those were pretty popular shows, at least in mine and Candace's eyes, they were. People seemed to really like them. People would come in the chat. Sometimes we would have shows where we would show off our collections, and we would invite people on there with us to show off their collections. Like we did albums, vinyl. and we were showing stuff, and other people wanted to come on and show some of their stuff, or we would do collectibles, horror collectibles or otherwise. Candace has a lot of vintage, like she likes vintage stuff like from the 50s, 60s, 70s, stuff like that. And she has shown some of the stuff that she has. So kind of retro type stuff. Kid, she said, "Oh, nice." Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of fun doing that show, but like I said, it got crazy there for a little bit for both of us, and it kind of, slid under the radar. Um, and so Candace actually talked to me about us, doing one. She said upcoming. She said it might not be on Friday, hence we're not doing it on Friday, but be on the lookout, folks, because we might pop up and do one this weekend. And we really want to get back to doing these regular. But now that I got that out of the way, I just want to remind you that we've got a lot of programming up on the channel. Again, I have, let's see, let's talk about some of these. The all new Seductive Poison debut episode is up on the channel. Evil Dead Chicks Top 10 Christmas Horror. I Don't Open Till Christmas Watch Along. Hope was on there with me. Evil Dead Chicks Slasher Fest for New Year's Evil. My Path to Becoming a Positive Renegade Chapter 3. Forgiveness is Key. Celluloid Trash, talking about the video Dead and Attack of the Beast creatures. The first episode of Horror Mania, talking about horror films from 1896 to 1899. Insomnia Cure, talking about horror movies that I think would put people to sleep from 1982 to 1983. They're All Messed Up, talking about Mary Mary, Bloody Mary, and Strict Nude for Your Killer. Evil Dead Chicks Top 10 Don't horror films. My Path to Becoming a Positive Renegade, Chapter 4, Don't Play the Blame Game. Celluloid Trash, talking about Beyond the Seventh Door and Black Devil Doll from Hell. Horror Mania Episode 2, talking about horror films from 1900 to 1905. Another Insomnia Cure, talking about horror films I think would put you to sleep from 1984 to 1985. They're All Messed Up, talking about Psychic Killer and Psycho from Texas. Evil Dead Chicks Top 10 Religious Horror Films. A Misery Watch Along. My Path to Becoming a Positive Renegade, Chapter 5, Don't Spread Gossip as Gospel. Celluloid Trash, talking about Blood Beat and the Brain. Horror Mania Episode 3, talking about horror films from 1906 to 1910. Another Insomnia Cure, talking about horror films that I think will put you to sleep from 1986 to 1987, which brings us up to date with tonight's stream. I also have some pre-recorded videos on here. Midnight Confessions for Final Exam. Me and Steve's first We Watch Movies of the New Year. Episode 8. A Pick Your Poison Taste Test. Stranger Things Gatorade Upside Down Citrus Cooler. Final thoughts on Stranger Things since that series recently ended. And a Movie Munchies for Billy's Black Christmas Cookies. We've also got some stuff coming up on the channel. Tomorrow, I mean, not tomorrow, but Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, My Path to Becoming a Positive Renegade, Chapter 6. Haters gonna hate, but do they need to? We've got a Shining watch along coming up on the 31st of January, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. They're All Messed Up. The rescheduled They're All Messed Up, talking about the Swinging Barmaids and Alice Sweet Alice, rescheduled for February 5th. We've got an Evil Dead Chicks Be My Deadly Valentine's Slumber Party, where we're going to be watching Schizoid. That's going to be on Friday the 13th. The 13th, of course, is the day before Valentine's Day as well. And that will be at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And also a rescheduled Cannibal Holocaust watch along for the 28th of February. I've also got a couple of polls up. Watch along movie choices for Saturday, February 14th. My Bloody Valentine from 1981 still in the lead with 72% of the votes. The Changeling is winning for Saturday, March 14th with 57% of the votes. The Crazies is in second place and Phantasm is trailing. All right. So if you want to have any say-so on what the next watch-along movies will be sure to get your votes in as quick as you can. All right. So without further ado, let's get to Evil Dead Chicks Top 10 Halloween Clones of the 80s. And if you guys have, any you would like to add to this as I go through these, or if you disagree with any of these that I've got, hey, a good, healthy debate about horror movies or otherwise is a good thing. Healthy debate now. Now, that doesn't include calling people stupid. I don't think anybody in here right now is going to call somebody stupid for their choices. All right. So, again, these are not in any particular order from best to worst or whatever. These are just ones that I pulled off my shelf. And let's get to it. So, the first one is Offerings. This has always been one of my favorite kind of cheesy 80s slashers from the late 80s, like 89, folks. And you'll definitely get your vote in, Davey. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The more people that vote, I think the more it keeps us from having ties on some of these things. And we don't have ties right now, so that's good. So I never really noticed how much of a Halloween clone or a Halloween ripoff this movie was until a few years ago. Steve and I did a commentary for it. And Steve kept remarking that there were things that were similar to Halloween in this. Okay. And even down to the music, which the music is done by Russell D. Allen, and I don't think it's a really good representation of John Carpenter's Halloween music, but Steve says it's similar. Okay. We also have I don't think he's a doctor from the hospital, but people, I was reading a review of this movie earlier, and they said that the guy Jim, that he was a doctor from the hospital. Now, all I remember them saying was he was involved with the Radley case, not that he was a doctor. Okay. So this is directed by Christopher Reynolds. Like I said, it came out in 1989. We were on the tail end of the slasher craze at that point in time, like that big 80s slasher craze. So here's the story. So we have young John Radley and his friend Gretchen. He has a very disturbed mother. We see in the opening scenes that she's, she says, "So what are you up to today, you little monster?" And she insinuates that, he's killed his pet turtle and things like that. The child doesn't say a word, not one word. And we also find out during this opening discussion that his mother was apparently attacked by her husband, John's father, and she apparently killed him. And we see that she's got something where somebody either tried to strangle her with something or tried to slice her throat open, because she has this really long scar. And she points at one point and she said, "You're going to turn out like your good for nothing father." And she said, is this how you're going to treat your wife? And then Gretchen comes up and knocks on the door and wants to know if Johnny can come out and play. So the mother reluctantly lets him go out there to play chess, or I mean, not chess, checkers with Gretchen. Well, the rest of the neighborhood kids come around, and they're the preppy kids, what we would have called the preps whenever I was in school, you know, and they don't like Johnny very well. So um, they want him to walk the well. They say, you know, evidently walking the well is a rite of passage in this neighborhood. And one of the kids says, I bet he's never walked the well. And Johnny takes off on his bike, goes to the well. The other kids hop on their bikes and follow him there. And where this is unlike Halloween is that this is a little more of a revenge type of thing. You know, I don't think Michael Myers was trying to get revenge. You know, he just wanted to go back to his hometown, and, you know, he just had a insatiable need to kill people, you know. But Johnny walks the well, and one of the kids scares him. He falls backwards into the well. The other kids run off. Gretchen stays behind. She's like, guys, please, you know, but they all leave because they're scared, because they're kids, you know, they think, oh my gosh. It's like the prom night scenario, which is another one that I'm going to talk about. So, hey, Gory Tiger. Apparently, we find out through some of the dialogue in the movie and later scenes that Johnny apparently made his way out of the well, made his way back to the house, killed his mother, and was eating her when they found him. Hence, he ends up in a mental hospital. Okay. 10 years later, Johnny kills a nurse and breaks out of the mental hospital and tries to make it back. And the title Offerings comes from the fact that Johnny starts killing Gretchen's friends and offering their body parts to her, which is another way that it's different than Halloween. Right? But the music is similar, although not very good. We have a college professor, and he may have been a psychiatrist too, that is very Sam Loomis like. And he is, you know, asked by the sheriff to, you know, because he was involved in the original case, to try to find Johnny before he does more damage. And so we have that. We have Gretchen, the grown college age Gretchen, being called by her friend, and she had already received a phone call where somebody didn't say anything. And so when her friend calls, she says, who the hell is this? And her friend gives, what's wrong with you? You know, you got a stick up your ass or what? You know, so there are similarities between this film and Halloween, but I don't feel like it's a complete ripoff, but it does have enough of a similarity to Halloween for me to call it a Halloween clone. And this ain't the only one, because I got 9 more to talk about. So that is Offerings. The next one is another one of my favorites that I did not know about for years. How this one slipped under my radar, I won't ever know, folks. And that is Edge of the Axe, which is a Spanish slasher film. And it's it is directed by Jose Ramon Larraz, who also did Vampires and Symptoms. They refer to this as a long neglected late 80s slasher. And Steve showed it to me, and it has one of the most, in my eyes, incredible opening kills that I've seen. So you have a woman who pulls her car into the old-fashioned car washes. Well, maybe not old-fashioned, but it's more of an automatic car wash. And she pulls in there and she sees something out of the corner of her eye, and she can't really tell what it is, and neither can the viewer. But it turns out to be this person with the white mask. And they are inside the car wash. And by the time she knows what's going on, it's too late, because the person starts axing in the windows on her car and they axe her up. So I was like, whoa, this movie doesn't waste no time, and it comes in like with a bang, So going out with a bang, comes in with a bang. So you have this community, Paddock County, but it is a quiet little county, but soon this axe murderer is axing up all kinds of people. And we find out that all these people are connected somehow with a mental patient. And I don't want to give it away, because this is a fun ride, folks, and I would not want to ruin the mystery of who the axe wielding killer is. So you also have a computer whiz kid for late 80s, Gerald, played by Barton Fawkes. And to me, Gerald is one of those lovable characters that, even if suspicion is cast on him at any time during the movie, you still love the guy. He's just so lovable. And his girlfriend Lillian, they're trying to figure out who this killer is. But again, like this one, folks, if you have not seen Edge of the Axe, try to find this one for free to watch, because I don't think you'll be disappointed. Now, Steve, he told me he wasn't, he wanted to watch it and stuff. And so we watched it a few years ago. And then he said, well, it wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. But I think it is fantastic. I really, really do. So there's Edge of the Axe. And the next one is Alone in the Dark, which has not one insane person escaping from the mental hospital, but you have several. I think you have, let's see, you have 1, 2, 3. I think you have 4. 4 psychopaths that so we got Frank Hawks, we got Preacher, yeah, I think there's 4 of them, folks. I just rewatched this again. I just wanted to make sure that I was, and Donald Pleasance is in this as Dr. Bain, but he runs an asylum where he has unconventional methods of treating the patients. And the really bad patients, the real serious cases, the real dangerous ones, he doesn't want to put them behind bars and stuff like that. So the locks are run on electricity. And guess what? A blackout happens and they escape, because with a blackout, you have no power. Therefore, the locks ain't going to work. So they escape, and they think that their new psychiatrist has killed their old psychiatrist, because Frank Hawks, played by Jack Palance, tells them that that's what happened, right? But we also have Martin Landau on here playing one of the psychopaths as well, which is very interesting. And again, you have Donald Pleasance playing another psychiatrist, but a different psychiatrist than Dr. Loomis, right? So once the psychopaths break out of the mental hospital, guess where they go? They go straight to Dr. Potter's house, played by Dwight Schultz that Dwight Schultz from the 18, folks. So once again, similar to Halloween and similar to a lot of slasher films in the 80s, you have not one, but four psychopaths escaping from the mental hospital and going on a rampage. So again, I really love Alone in the Dark. I think it has some very creepy aspects to it. It's not really goofy like some of these are, or super cheesy or anything. It's a little more serious, except you have a punk band called the Sick Fucks in this, and they're entertaining as all get out too. So, and they are were a real band. I think the lead singer may have passed away here recently, but it's entertaining. They sing songs like "Chop Up Your Mother" and stuff like that in the movie. So, whoops, I'm about to knock a bunch of stuff over here. Sorry, folks. That's what I get for having too much stuff on my desk. So anyway, that's Alone in the Dark, folks. All right, so the next one is Romano Scavellini's Nightmare, or Nightmares in a Damaged Brain, if you know it under that title. This one, yeah, take a look at that, folks. And New York Daily News said the most repulsive, offensive, degrading, gory, depraved, and horrifying movie ever made. Now, it's bloody, folks. So you have young George there, who, when he was younger, apparently, I'm guessing it's supposed to be his mom and daddy playing little sex games. And evidently, little George is very disturbed because he can't handle seeing his daddy get slapped around by a woman that looks like a dominatrix or something. But I'd read other stuff and it said that it was supposed to be his parents. So I guess pick and choose your poison there. So he gets so upset that he comes in there and cuts the head off either his mama or whoever his daddy was messing with, and then kills the father. Well, he surely to goodness he ended up in a mental hospital at that point. But you have the grown George waking up from this nightmare, screaming, and every time he sees something sexual, like why somebody would let this guy out of the mental hospital, I don't know. But he doesn't escape from the mental hospital. They release him, but then he leaves the area, which he wasn't supposed to do, and goes looking for his ex-wife. How this guy had a wife at any point in time, I don't know, because the guy never acts normal through the whole movie. So on his way to find his ex-wife and his kids, he stops at this sex shop or peep show or whatever. And every time he sees something highly sexual like this, he usually ends up having seizures, foaming at the mouth, and all kinds of stuff. And he also has an insatiable urge to kill people. And he does end up killing several people on his way to find his ex-wife and his kids. So I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that this movie is would not be a hard watch for some people. It may be too much for some people. And, for those people, I would not recommend that you watch it. But if you think that you can handle it, um, I would say give it a go. It is very bloody and gory. If you can't tell by this shot alone, um, then I don't know what to tell you. But it is very gory. There were rumors that Tom Savini was the special effects maestro for this. Tom Savini says he did, he may have visited somebody on the set, but that he was not the special makeup effects guy for this. The director has other words to say about that. Which, if you get the Severin Films, this is the other cover. If you get the Severin Films version of this, it has a bunch of extras and stuff like that on it. There are 3 discs with this set. There's audio commentary and there's interviews and all kinds of stuff on the disc. But if you don't own it and want to watch it for free, I would definitely go that route first. All right. So the next one is The Dorm That Dripped Blood or Pranks. Now, you don't have anybody escaping from a mental hospital in this one. You don't have anybody being released from a mental hospital. But you have a whole bunch of red herrings and one really crazy psychopath who is killing college students on the campus while it's closed for the Christmas holidays. And they're going to be tearing down one of the dorms and putting up apartments there. So they need some of the students to stay behind that are part of the co-op to clean everything up, sell off all the old furniture and stuff like that, and beds and all that. So those that are left behind to do this are being menaced by a killer and slowly being killed off. And this does have one scene in it that I think is really good special effects and looks pretty realistic in my eyes, is when the caretaker or whatever gets his head drilled. That looks really, really good. The rest of the stuff is basic stalk and slash type of stuff. Now, yeah, this might be a little more cheesy than people like, but I think it's a decent slasher. I have a lot of fun with it. I was not able to pick the killer out or discover who the killer was the first time I watched it. Now, of course, in hindsight, you look at it and you're like, oh, yeah, why didn't I see that? But I think this is a fun one. It's also one that I watch around Christmas time because it does take place at Christmas time. So again, this is A Dorm That Dripped Blood, aka Pranks. And also it is known in some places under the title Death Dorm. All right, so now we've got Blood Rage this Thanksgiving, folks. It's not cranberry sauce. This is one of my favorite Thanksgiving horror films that I watch every year around Thanksgiving. Is it cheesy? Yeah. I ain't even gonna lie. And you do have someone escaping from a mental hospital, even though they call it a school. And you do have a lot of slashing going on, folks. So we have twins, Terry and Todd, who at the beginning are at the drive-in with their mom. Why their mom, played by Louise Lasser, folks. Yes, that Louise Lasser of Mary Hartman. She brings her 2 boys and her boyfriend her boyfriend actually drives her and her 2 twin boys to the drive-in, where she's proceeding. How they pick Louis Lasser, I'll never know. She was way too old to be making out with a boyfriend at the drive-in, but she looked about 40, 45 years old there. And she was so worried about her boys, but she gets into it with her boyfriend, into it, I mean, making out. The two boys wake up and say, Mom's at it again. So evidently their mom is, as Steve would say, a hooer, uh, or around her or something, because evidently she does this a lot. So they get out, the kids get out and sneak off. And this guy is getting it on with his girlfriend in another car. We find out that Terry is evidently psychotic. He's the psychotic twin. So he uses a little hand axe and chops up the guy in the car. His girl runs away. And then he smears blood all over Todd and blames Todd. Todd is catatonic, I guess, from seeing what his brother did. And so guess what? Todd gets shipped off to the mental hospital. And they call it a school. I don't know why. But Todd does end up escaping. But we know by now that Terry is the psychotic one. And when his brother escapes and shows back up, well, Terry's kind of latent psychotic tendencies come out again because he knows he can blame it on his brother once again. A lot of bloody kills, body parts getting chopped off and people getting chopped in half and all kinds of good stuff like that, if you like that sort of thing. But that's Blood Rage. The next one is one of my personal favorites from Canada. Actually, I'm going to have two in a row from Canada, but this is Prom Night. And Prom Night, again, does not have anybody escaping from a mental hospital. This is pretty much a revenge type scenario. So the opening scenes are of young Robin and her sister Kim and her brother Alex on their way to school. Apparently they don't ride the bus, or either I think they were going to school. Apparently they don't ride a school bus. They just walk to school, and they walk past this old convent. And I always thought this was an old school, but they mentioned in the movie that it's a convent. And it's an old convent. It's an abandoned convent. So some of the more popular kids are playing a bastardized version of hide and seek, where they count to 10 and everybody else hides. But they do this thing, the killer is coming. The killer is going to get you. And I don't know if this is a Canadian version of hide and seek. I've never heard of it in the United States, but it is supposed to be the United States because they talk about Cleveland and all that stuff. But clearly, if you notice, there are hallmarks that make this a Canadian film. For instance, bluffs are mentioned. They don't say sorry, they say sorry. So when I hear those two things mentioned, I pretty much know that this is a Canadian film. The only other thing that might make it a Canadian film is Moosehead beer, which I'm going to talk about in the next film. But Robin sees the popular kids, and Nick is one of them, and Kim likes Nick, but Robin points and she has a little stutter. She says, "Look, Kim." And she sees Nick and "Hi, Nick." And he's, of course, outside of the building walking on the ledge. And he's like, because Wendy is the killer that's supposed to come find him. And he's like this, he doesn't want to get caught. And Kim just shakes her head and said, "He's an idiot." And then she realizes, Kim does, that she has forgotten one of her books, I believe. And she said, I got to go back for it. She says, Robin, you and Alex go on. But Robin's already set her eyes on it. She wants to play this game with these kids. And Alex says, they don't want you in their game. Come on, you know. And I believe Robin and Alex are twins. And finally, Alex says, well, I'm not waiting. And she says, Alex, you know, she calls after him, and it appears that he leaves. She goes into the old convent. The kids discover her there, and they decide to scare her. So they're all surrounding her and going, the killers are coming, the killers are coming, kill, 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 and chasing her. They back her up against a window. She falls out of the window and dies. The kids become scared, and, you know, Nick first says, we got to find somebody. We got to get somebody quick. Wendy, in her so-called infinite wisdom, says, are you crazy? She says, they'll put us in jail. You know, I guess thinking like a kid would think. She says, we'll go home and not tell anyone what happened. And wants them to all swear that they will never tell. So 6 years later, they're high school age. It's time for prom. And somebody is killing members of the student body off that had to do with Robin's death 6 years ago. So we have someone wearing a mask, not a Michael Myers mask, but a black mask, you know, slitting throats and chasing people with axes. And this one is not nearly as bloody as some of these. For instance, there's an axe scene where the killer is chopping somebody up and they're going, now, now, now. But you just hear the chopping sounds. And sometimes that's bad enough. But I didn't want anybody to have any preconceptions that this was going to be an all-out gore fest, because there really is not a whole lot of gore. I'm not going to say you might not see some severed heads, some throat slits, stuff like that. But there's not as much gore as, like, let's say, you know, Nightmare, for instance. Okay? So that's Prom Night. The next one is also a Canadian slasher, and I'm getting ready to watch it for the upcoming Valentine's season. And hopefully we'll be doing a watch along on this. This is My Bloody Valentine from 1981, not the remake. Although the remake's not bad, but this is my movie of choice when it comes to watching My Bloody Valentine. I want to watch the original. Directed by George Mahalka. So once again, you have a character, Harry Warden, who was forced to eat other miners around him when there was a cave-in. By the time they found him, he had went completely crazy, and he was eating those people around him. And so guess what? He gets shipped off to the mental hospital. Okay, so then the story goes that a year later or so, he breaks out of the mental hospital and gets those that are responsible for him being in that cave-in, for one thing. And, you know, I won't go deep into all the little intricacies. So years after that, we have a group of young people. We have the guys that are minors, and we have their girlfriends. And you have the typical, you know, guy left town. TJ's the guy that left town to try to go out to the West Coast and make something of himself. Okay? He couldn't do it. He has to come back. So guess what? He's working in the mine again. Well, while he was gone, his girlfriend hooked up with a friend of his and fellow miner, Axel. So you got a little tension going on there between the three of them. And so once again, though, somebody is killing off the residents of Valentine Bluffs, and the kids want to have a Valentine's dance. Well, after one of the townsfolk is killed off that was heading up this Valentine's dance, the town sheriff or constable or whatever you want to call him, and the mayor, who is just happens to be TJ's father, decide, hey, a Valentine's Day dance is not really a good idea because they think Harry Warden's come back. So, what the kids decide to do? They decide to have a secret dance at the mine. Real smart idea, guys and gals. So, I think you don't need to be told what's going to happen in that mine and at that dance, folks. But it's definitely a lot of fun for slasher fans. I absolutely love this movie. All right, so two more, 8 down and 2 more to go, folks. Next one is 1980's Friday the 13th. Now, again, we don't have anybody breaking out of a mental hospital per se. We have the legend of Jason Voorhees that starts with this movie. And Jason Voorhees drowned when he was a little boy. And from then on out, things have been happening at the camp. Every time they wanted to open the camp, the water got poisoned or, something would happen. Well, now Steve Christie's trying to open Camp Crystal Lake again. And he is the son of the 2 original owners of Camp Crystal Lake. And he wants to make a go of it, so he's hired a bunch of young people to help him get this camp started. Well, somebody ain't too happy about that and starts slowly killing people off. And yeah, it's a slasher like Halloween, but I don't really think that the music is similar to Halloween. And hence you don't have, somebody breaking out of a mental hospital to do this. Although one of the characters may have spent some time in a mental hospital coping. That's just all I'm going to say. But it's just not blatantly spoken that anybody broke out of a mental hospital, right? Or spent any time there. But Friday the 13th, this is the original, folks. Directed by Sean Cunningham and starring a very young Kevin Bacon, folks. I mean, yeah, he was in Animal House before this, but, you want to see a young Kevin Bacon in a horror film? Here's your chance, folks. So that is Friday the 13th. I don't think I need to talk a whole lot about Friday the 13th. I think most horror fans and slasher fans have seen it. So the last one, and this is the one that gave me the idea to do this top 10, and that is Sorority House Massacre. Because I noticed how much this seemed like Halloween. In that, one, you've got a guy who murdered his family, got sent to a mental hospital, breaks out years later, and tries to kill one of his remaining family members. And so, yeah, some of this is a little cheesy. So but it's fun cheesy, right? Can't you say I met some of the cast of Friday the 13th franchise? They were really fun people. Sorority House Massacre, oh my God, I haven't watched that one forever. Yeah, it had been a while for me watching it, and I just decided to pull it out the other day and watch it. And I was like, there are some aspects, quite a few aspects of this that are like Halloween. So I don't know, do Evil Dead Chicks top 10 Halloween clones of the 80s. But Sorority House Massacre has Beth, who is returning to college, and she's thinking about joining the sorority that a lot of her friends are part of. And her aunt had just died because her aunt raised her because her parents were deceased. And Beth is having these strange dreams where a young man is trying to kill her. And she's seeing a family that's dead, that's been killed in various gruesome ways. So after her aunt's funeral and stuff, and she comes back, her friend meets her at the door of the sorority house. And we find out that Beth has got a connection to that particular sorority house. And I don't want to give it all away for those of you that haven't seen it. But I think if you go back and you either rewatch this or watch this fresh, and you have seen Halloween, which I figure most of you horror and slasher fans have seen from 1978, that you will notice that there are some similarities. You don't have babysitters in this one. You don't have Jamie Lee Curtis in this one, but take a look at it, folks, and see if you don't see the similarities. And if you don't already own a copy of this, try to find a for free copy to watch, because this fast became one of my favorite slashers. One of those where you don't have to think too hard about it. You don't have to expend much mind power at all. But folks, this is just a ball of fun, just a yarn ball of fun, for slasher fans, I would say. So again, that's Sorority House Massacre. And that means I have, after being on here for almost an hour, I've reached the end of this edition of Evil Dead Chicks Top 10, talking about Halloween clones of the 80s. I hope those of you that were able to join me tonight enjoyed this, and hopefully there will be more Evil Dead Chicks Top 10s to come. But I do want to thank Kits for being in here, Davey for being in here, Gory Tiger for being in here, and keeping me company in the chat. And for those of you that were watching along that maybe didn't feel comfortable getting in the chat, or you were watching on a device where you were unable to chat, like a smart TV or something like that, thank you, Kits. I appreciate that, and you're very welcome. I want to do more of these because these seem to be like they're fun times for people. And also, for those of you that didn't get to join me live on here but will watch this on the replay, I appreciate all of you guys and gals as well. And as always, I'm off like a dirty shirt. This shirt ain't dirty, but I'm off like one. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do before I get off of here for the night, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Be sure to tune in if you can, Sunday night starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for another My Path to Becoming a Positive Renegade. Haters going to hate, but do they need to? And be on the lookout for Friday Foolish to come up sometime in the near future, the return of Friday Foolish. Everybody have a fantastic rest of your Friday night. And if I don't see you in here, have a fantastic weekend. And I will see everybody next time.